All right. Well, good morning, everyone, or good afternoon, rather. This is Ritu Jalhan. I'm happy to be here with you all for Play to Win Part 3. I'm so excited that so many of you decided to join. I think we had approximately 60 people register for the event. I know a lot of you look forward to seeing Arlene's wonderful face hosting these events, and she's such an amazing host, but she is rather busy today. So I'm taking on her role of being the sort of a mediator for today's event. We wanted to make sure that we completed this series and we ended with a bang of giving you a lot of information in regards to how you can effectively use your woman-owned small business certification. We had two very well-attended sessions a few weeks ago in regards to how to get certified. But it's great to get certifications, but I think the bigger thing is in regards to how you can effectively use that certification. So on that note, I'm so glad that you guys are here. I'm so glad that you guys have, decided to join us this afternoon, and just wanted to make sure that, we equip you with some great resources. So on today's webinar, we have Natalie Rosa. Natalie, I'm just going to give you, pass the mic to you to take 2 seconds to just introduce yourself, and then we'll move on to Nasha. So go ahead, take it away, Natalie.
Good morning, everybody, or afternoon, I guess. I'm, can you hear me?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So my name is Natalie Rosa. I am the program director for the SBA 7J Management and Technical Assistance program through the Florida State Minority Supplier Development Council. What we do is pretty much we help small businesses get government contract ready, which is why I'm on here today, and definitely supporting the MBDA, which is where Kanasha and Ritu work. And we will work alongside each other trying to help you guys. So
great. And Kanasha, I'll just give you the mic. I think you might be on mute. Oh, okay. Perfect. Great.
Yeah, I wanted to make sure that there wasn't any feedback. But hi, everyone. My name is Kanasha. I am a business consultant at the Miami MBDA Center. And so primarily, a lot of the work that I do is helping business owners understand how to, maximize their market share into the economy. And a lot of that is looking at marketing, understanding your target audience, and helping them review their capability statements. So I'll be sharing a lot of that information in my part of the presentation, and happy to be working alongside these two amazing women on here, providing you amazing women some really great insight on how to scale your business.
Great. Thanks, Kanasha. So just wanted to let everybody know, if you haven't already met me, I am a board member for Women on the Rise. I'm actively involved in their event planning and education elements. So happy to be providing women today, arming them with tools, like I said before, on how to grow their women-owned small businesses and get ready to do business with the government. My role right now professionally is working with the MBDA, which is a Minority Business Development Agency. It is an organization that is tasked with doing three main things, which is getting people who are minorities scaled and having capacity to do business with certain government organizations. So getting them access to government contracts, getting them access to capital through the SBA, and that's why we work very closely with the SBA, and Natalie works with them as well. And then lastly, giving them assistance on getting certified. So those are our three core main things, but we also do have other specialty consultants who provide other services. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to flip it over and start the presentation. And so just give me a minute here and share my screen so you guys can all see it. All right. Let me know when I'm up and running. All right, I think we're ready, right, guys? Okay.
I don't think the presentation's up. I think Dominique might be doing it in the background.
Okay. Give me 1 second here. Sorry.
A couple topics, by the way, that we're going to hit is it seems like simple things that we're going to be talking about. And we're going to go high level on what government contracting means as a small business. But you have to keep in mind that these are very important topics. You have to think keeping it simple while being specific is very important, and keep that in mind throughout the entire presentation. Okay.
All right. Are we up then? We've
Yep.
got it going on? All right. Okay, so as you know, we've done 2 sessions so far, and those were really honing in on how to get certified as a woman-owned business. And the reason why we had those 2 previous seminars and webinars is because we wanted to really equip women with the information of how to get certified, because a lot of changes were coming through the pipelines in regards to how to get certified and what the new cert, that you're no longer allowed to be self-certified. You actually have to go through an application process. So now that we've taken you through those steps and introduced you to organizations like WeBank, as well as assisted you in getting familiar with the SBA's website and how to get access to those applications, we want you to get certified. But then what comes after that is what we're going to talk about today. So we want to make sure that you're playing to win and how to secure government contracts with your woman-owned small business. So again, just wanted to reintroduce myself for those people who are just maybe joining a little late. My name is Ritu Jalhan. I'm the Center Director for the Orlando MBDA Center. The MBDA Center stands for Minority Business Development Agency. We help develop minority businesses so that they can scale and have capacity to do business with government organizations. We provide assistance for access to capital, any global business exporting businesses as well. We do assist them as well. We provide access to contracts and bids, as well as new markets through our network. We do strategic business consulting. We do have a lawyer as well as an RFP expert who will help you with your contracts and bids as you go through this journey. We also do have experts in e-commerce, web design, and graphic design. We provide ongoing education and training, especially for businesses that are new and wanting to get certified and get into the ranks of doing business with the government. So I'm going to get right into it and explain to you all a little bit about government purchasing. So the federal government, the US federal government, is the largest buyer of products and services worldwide. They buy everything from pencils all the way up to missiles and big tankers, as well as satellites, and they especially a lot of roadway construction, highway construction, electrical lines, water, wastewater treatment, you name it. There's a lot of infrastructure development as administrative that they need to put. Positioning your business to supply a service or a product to the federal government is a rewarding position to be in. However, you have to brand yourself and you have to make marketing very effective to meet their checks and balances. So there's things like the NAICS codes, DUN numbers, CAGE numbers that we're going to be referring to today, and you're going to have to do some research on your own as well. We'll share as much information as we can with you, but you probably have to do some research and gather information on your own as well to make sure you understand what those items are. So why do business with the federal government? Again, I mentioned largest purchaser in the world, has a budget of over $540 million annually.
Billion.
Sorry, million?
And that's of new purchases. Those are new requirements, not the entire federal government. Because you have to remember there's existing contracts as well. That's really important for you guys out there. Recompete contracts are still viable, even though that they sometimes go back to the incumbent. But keep in mind that for the 540 billion of that, it's about 110 billion that goes to small.
Oh, okay. Great information, Natalie. Just me, but you were a little bit in and out at the end. But just to reiterate, Natalie was saying that is a good portion of this, $100+ billion that's set aside for businesses, and we'll get into that in just a minute. So the thing is, when you are doing business with the federal government, you have to understand the process, RFPs, what the different sorts are. So there are different purchasing rules around we can spend on discretionarily without having to go to bid, and then there's other elements where they have to have it scheduled and make sure that they are going through a proper RFP process. So as here, some of them credit card purchases up to a maximum of $10,000 for those simplified purchases can happen. And also there's simplified acquisition purchases that are up to $250,000 that can be done. Natalie, do you want to just elaborate on that a little bit more?
Yes. Yes, I definitely will. So those have actually changed because of COVID-19. The micro purchase threshold is at $20,000 now,
Okay.
and the simplified acquisition purchase threshold is at 750,000. So what that means is there's less red tape for the purchasers or the contracting officers, programming offices, anybody who has purchasing power when they're doing a simplified acquisition purchase or a credit card or micro purchase, right? So when they're doing a micro purchase, you have to remember that it's a credit card purchase. So they have up to $20,000 that they could do in one swipe. It's a lot easier for them than having to do adequate market research and everything like that. They have to do a certain amount of it, but it's not as much of a heavy lift for the procurement officials as a normal solicitation is. And also, simplified acquisition is the same concept, but there's a little bit more red tape than the micro purchase. But it does go back into it's easier to contract with. So right now, because it's been so chaotic with COVID-19 and everything like that, a lot of contracts have gone simplified acquisition or micro purchase just because it's a lot quicker. And right now, those are very specific guidelines to go off of across the federal government. It's a lot easier for federal officials to award that way. And there's again, the red tape is ridiculous with normal solicitation. So when you're going micro purchase, it's a whole other ballgame. So
Wow, that's good information. So one of the key things that I wanted to point out in the last two bullets here is that there are non-competitive as well as competitive advantages to selected businesses. There's certain areas where there's not enough minorities participating, not enough women, not enough disabled veteran, and they do have a competition type set aside that is given for those categories. And so it's important to do your research and find out what NAICS codes. Remember, I mentioned that there's going to be certain acronyms that we use today. NAICS stands for North American Industry Classification System. So it's a number that is based on your industry. That you need to make sure that there are set asides for women-owned, economically disadvantaged, women-owned, disabled veteran, veteran-owned, 8A, hub zone, and we'll get into those in just a minute, what all those are. But you do need to do your research to see which one of those competition types do have set asides. Now, set asides are actually how much money of the budget is set aside for the SBA programs. As Natalie mentioned at the beginning of the slide, over $100 billion is put aside for small businesses. You need to get your small business certification in order to qualify to bid on those opportunities. So that's very important. The set asides are usually anywhere from 20 to 23%. Is that right, Natalie?
So there's a breakdown and it goes actually into it on set aside requirements. There's what Ritu is talking about, that there's a mandate, not a they should or maybe. There's a mandate across all of the federal government that 23% of all contracts should go to small business. So within that 23%, there is a breakdown. I believe it might be in the next couple slides, and I know the Reach is going to talk about it. But it's a breakdown of the different certifications through the SBA that classify different types of small businesses, like women-owned, socially economically disadvantaged small business, economically disadvantaged women-owned small business, service disabled veteran, things like that. So when you're thinking about what you qualify for as a small business, if you qualify for more than one, the more the merrier. Honestly, a lot of people, the last one were asking, oh, if I qualify for one, does it make a difference to go for the other one? And 100%, if you qualify for any of the certifications, go for it. But you have to, with certain ones, like the 8A is pretty much the only one that you really have to time it correctly. And there is a breakdown on why I'm saying that, but there's only 9 years within that program and it could go very quickly. And that is the only program that has the ability to give you direct award sole sources. And we'll talk about that later.
Okay, great. And so just wanted to reiterate on bullet number 8, where it does talk about the subcontracting goals being met annually. Just so you know, each of the divisions of the government have a goal. They need to make sure they're doing business with small businesses. They're spending that money with them. If they do not use it, they are at risk of losing it. So it is to their advantage to do business with small businesses, with women-owned small businesses, economically disadvantaged women-owned small businesses, to do to do business with them so they can maintain that level of their budget.
And it also goes for the large corporations that have existing contracts with the federal agencies. So what does that mean? So you see these contracts that are like $2.1 billion and things like that. Like Verizon Wireless has a $52 billion contract with Department of Homeland Security, but it's 40% small business set aside. So because it's such a large sum, they have to meet 40% of the work has to be done by small businesses. So they, just like the agencies have to go out and find small businesses, the actual large corporation who has that small business set aside percentage within their contract have to go out and find those viable small businesses as well. So that's really important. A lot of people say, why am I going to deal with, dealing with large corporations or want to contract with them? Why am I going to talk to them? Because they need you as well, especially if they're active in federal contracting.
Yeah. And so I think we already covered this part about why it's important, why small business is important, and these set-asides being a powerful tool. Just to recap that, which was in bullet number 8 and what we were talking about earlier, it was the Small Business Act in 1953 that requires 23% of all federal contracts to be awarded to small businesses annually. So I just wanted to make sure I had that number right, and it was on the next slide. I remember I read it somewhere. All right, so how are small business size standards determined? This is really important to note because each industry is unique and therefore has different size standards. So you could be a small business in manufacturing and be a multi-million-dollar business, but you're still considered small. So let's go through that. The SBA has a comprehensive table, and it breaks down all these size rules. So the first one that I'll just cover off right here from an agricultural standpoint is to be considered small is to be doing less than $750,000 in average receipts. And that's average receipts, right? Normally it means that the average purchase should be less than $750,000.
Correct. And what you have to keep in mind is that top thing that it says new rule SBA will begin to utilize the average of 5 years. Previously, it was an average of 3 years. So now it's an average of 5 years. And a lot of construction firms and professional services and things like that are held against what Ritu was talking about, a dollar amount as opposed to employee count. So that's when you're dictating what your primary NAICS code is, that helps to dictate your small business size standard. What's a small business size standard? It literally just says the standard on which if you're small or not small anymore in the federal government. So if you have the NAICS code 541611, which is a professional services NAICS code, you're held to, in an average of 5 years, you cannot exceed $16.5 million. It's not on there, but I know that. $16.5 million exceed. So you could do 100 million one year, 0 the next, 20 million the next, 10 million, as long as it averages to 16.5 or less within that NAICS code, by the way. Within 5 years, you're good. You're still considered small, so you still qualify for the different certifications as well. And the federal agencies can actually award you contracts as a small business and meet those goals as well. So that 23%, they can push it towards that. What Ritu was talking about with manufacturing is that certain NAICS codes have employee count, which means if you don't exceed, like you see the manufacturing, it says maximum number of employees ranges from 500 to 1,500. If I'm in manufacturing, like software manufacturing, I believe is 750 employees. If in 5 years, I don't exceed an average of 750 employees over that 5-year period, you're still considered small. 750 employees is ridiculous. So if you do manufacture or you do have one of your core competencies meets the requirements for those NAICS codes, I highly recommend shifting your core business tactics and everything that you're doing to that specific NAICS code in order for that to be your primary. Doesn't mean you have to abandon everything else, but I'm just saying to focus on that so that when you are getting certified, you have experience in that NAICS code specifically, and it shows viable experience so that you can make that your primary, and it's not a question about, oh, I just made it my primary because I'm exceeding the dollar amount. No, you have to make sure that it's in your business plan, that you have contracts awarded in that NAICS code. It's very important that when choosing your primary NAICS code, you not only include the small business size standard as something that you think about, but you really make sure that your core is under that primary NAICS code.
The next one that I want to double click on is construction, because there's a lot that happens in construction from a federal government standpoint. As I mentioned earlier, what some of the largest contracts that are out there are for water, wastewater treatment plants, they're for roadway construction, they're for any sort of major infrastructure projects that are there. So, that $36.5 million in average receipts can easily be exceeded. So you have to be mindful of, what capacity you're taking on, how much you're committing to, and where you're placing your bets with your RFPs and the bids that you're putting out. So just to go down the list here, wholesale trade, maximum of employees again. So it doesn't really matter in terms of dollar value. It matters in terms of employee counts. Finance and insurance, again, maximum number of employees is 1,500. And then the thing with insurance and underwriting is that you've got these annual premiums that are really excessive for the underwriting part of it, but your net should be, anywhere between 32.5 million and 38.5 million. So I'm just going to go to the next slide, and this is a very, very important slide. This is the one that you may have seen before. Sorry, I think I've been muted a couple of times because there's some feedback. All right. If there is feedback, just let us know in the comments if you're having trouble hearing us, and I apologize. I don't know why that is. Okay, and if you have any questions, please put them into the chat box. Sorry, I'm reading these messages on the side. Okay, so this slide is something you want to just, use as a tool to figure out where it is that you lie on this table. There's some people who are on this call that I've invited that are not a woman-owned small business, but they may be in a hub zone, so a historically underutilized business zone. And that's number 2 on the list here. So of the overall 23% set aside goal, 3% should be given to hub zone certified businesses. You do need to apply for this. It is based on your zip code, and what it essentially measures is how many businesses are in that area, how many people are employed in that area, and is it historically underutilized and underemployed. So I know a neat trick that Natalie taught me early on is that, usually university campuses and anywhere around those areas are hub zones because students are technically unemployed. They are full-time students and they don't have full-time jobs because they just don't have the capacity at that time. So that said, a lot of times businesses that are around university campuses are designated as hub zone businesses. Small disadvantaged business, known as an 8A, is also a very good certification to get. As Natalie mentioned earlier, it is an 8-year program, and once you're through it, it's done. You don't have any opportunity to go back into it unless you are under a different NAICS code. So it's NAICS code driven. You have to determine what business you're going to be in, and that business under that NAICS code is then 8A certified. There are a lot of civil engineers, women-owned businesses that are civil engineers that have been 8A certified, and it's such an advantage to them on getting any civil engineering projects. We've helped a couple of businesses do that in the past. So it's a great certification to have, and there is also a minimum, a benchmark that if you hit a certain net
Okay, you have to
worth,
make sure that the 8A.
well. Sorry, Natalie, I can't hear you now.
So the 8A, remember, it's 9 years.
Oh, it's 9 years.
No, it's okay. Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I thought you said 9. But when she's talking about NACS code driven, it's not necessarily only specific NACS codes require are in the requirement. What she's talking about is if you're a woman in construction that's Anglo white woman, you're in a construction field as your primary NACS code, obviously that means that you're socially disadvantaged. That's why it's socially and economically disadvantaged certification. It's not, everybody says it's a minority certification, but it's not. So make sure that if you think you don't qualify, you may qualify under your NACS code. That's what Ritu was trying to say.
That's great. Thanks for the clarification. All right, and so we've already covered off on our previous 2 webinars in regards to what it takes to become a woman-owned small business. The rules are changing. You do now need to apply, and that was as of July 15th. In order to get the woman-owned small business or the economically disadvantaged woman-owned small business certification. The EDWOSB is very similar in nature to the application for the 8A certification. You do need to submit your taxes because you have to demonstrate that you're below a certain earnings potential. The service disabled veteran-owned small business is self-certified for now, but the VA is looking into becoming the certifying body for that. So who qualifies for an 8A firm? We went in the previous seminars, in the previous webinars in regards to what it takes to be a woman-owned small business, but now we'll just cover this one off. I know we already checked some of the boxes here. So you have to be a U.S. citizen. It has to be at least 51% owned by a U.S. citizen. You have to not already have participated in the 8A program, and you have to demonstrate that you're economically and socially disadvantaged, and that your net worth at time of application is less than $250,000.
And that's actually been bumped up to 750,000.
Okay, so that's increased to 750,000 now, and that's minus the value of your home and the value of your business.
Correct.
So
your primary residence, yes.
Your primary home, yeah. And then so just make sure that you're meeting those minimums, and that we can get you certified. So you also need to be in the day-to-day operations of the business and making long-term decisions. So you can't just get the certification and then turn the business over to somebody else. This is not a pass-through. A lot of people think that you can just get that certificate and get somebody else to do the work, but no, you need to be there rolling up your sleeves and being involved. So the other thing that's great about the 8A certification is that they do have a mentor protege program, which is excellent to utilize. And what we recommend is that you are prepared and you have done some form of either state, local, or federal contracts in order to be ready to utilize the 8A certification to its maximum capacity over the 9 years that you have it. Because the last thing you want is to get the certification and be lost in the woods and not know how to use it. So who qualifies for a woman-owned EDWOSB? So again, the EDWOSB, as I mentioned earlier, is very similar to the 8A certification. You need to be 51% owned and controlled by a U.S. citizen who is a woman, and that's passport proof. You must have the highest position at the company, and you must be engaged full-time. You have to, in order to be deemed economically disadvantaged, your net worth has to be, as Natalie mentioned, less than $750,000, excluding your business value and the primary residence, and your adjusted gross income over 3 years is less than $350,000. Is that after you get into the program?
I think it's after.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then the fair market value of all assets is less than $6 million. And hub zone, as I mentioned earlier, that the hub zones are commonly found in your university campuses. They're small business size standards. You need to have, again, 51% owned and controlled by a U.S. citizen, located in a hub zone area. And when you get this PowerPoint, you can click on this link. It'll take you to the website with all the zip codes that are designated as hub zone areas. Have at least 35% of the business's employees also living in the hub zone area. So if the hub zone, if the location that you're in gets redesignated out of a hub zone area, the firm can be grandfathered in for a period of 10 years. So you don't need to worry. If you bought, if you started a business near UCF and then all of a sudden UCF is no longer a hub zone area, you still will be grandfathered in for 10 years. Um, Natalie, did you want to take this one? I'm not as familiar with the increases.
Yes, so the set asides and subcontracting, that's what we were talking about for the large corporations and the different set aside programs for small businesses. So what that means is if you're a large corporation, you have, like we talked about Verizon having that 40% small business set aside. If in the past there hasn't been a big magnifying glass over the different contracts, making sure that those requirements are being met in a timely manner and things like that. You know, it's not that they're not being met, it's just that there hasn't been an accountability situation. So that's why it says SBA increased enforcement, which means that now if a large corporation that has a small business set aside, if they're not meeting those goals, they can actually stop payment to that contract. And it's kind of really great for those small businesses because I know that everyone here has heard those horror stories that, hey, I'd love to work with this construction firm or this large corporation, but I heard that they don't pay their vendors. They don't pay their subcontractors. There's a nightmare to work with them, things like that. But in all honesty, because of this, and it actually happened, I think, January of 2020, now there's a heavier lift on making sure that those small business set-asides get met. And then also there's a larger increase on making sure that the agencies are also meeting that 23%. In 2019, they did not meet the goal across the federal agencies. They only did 21% with small business. 1.5 of those contracts, 1.5%, was with HubZone. So 3% doesn't seem like a lot, but they have not ever met that 3% goal. I think it's kind of ridiculous, but you know, it is what it is. They need help finding you guys. If you're a HubZone firm and you're not marketing yourself as a HubZone firm, you need to, especially as women-owned too. The certification is changing, and for a reason. They didn't meet the women-owned goal either. They were almost there, but they didn't meet the women-owned goal either. And it's very important for these agencies and the small business programming offices to know that you're out there. If they don't know that you're out there, then there's no way of them meeting the goal. So it's the chicken or the egg. You know, if you get your certification, then that's the only way that you can actually be seen, but you can't be seen unless you put yourself out there. You got to figure out when you're going to be doing that. So the SBA is really enforcing more along the lines of the mandate and those small business set-asides as well. That's what that means.
And thanks for that input, Natalie. Just wanted to reemphasize what Natalie had just mentioned. They did not meet their women-owned set-aside goals. So the women on this call, take note. Let's find out. Let's do research. Let's figure out a way that we can get into those of maximize side for small business that are women-owned small businesses or economically disadvantaged. To maybe do a deep dive with you, Natalie, and your mom, because I know she's an internal expert in business with the federal government, and which areas can be maxed in the coming years. So I wanted to just quickly let everybody know that things are moving around. There were a ton of different websites that you could go to in order to access government contracts, and now they are all migrating to betasam.gov. So one portal, one location, everything that you need. So this is just a diagram to let you know that these were all the different sites that you could go to find past performance on who got awarded contracts, wage determination for how much you would have to pay people in order to make sure that you're not overstating or understating too far below what your price would be. And then FBO, which is Fed Biz Ops, you would get contracting opportunities there, as well as through the GSA and through SAM. So this is just wanting to share with you that all of these are coming into one portal. Natalie, did you want to add anything?
Yeah, sure. FPDS is the bottom one on the left hand side. That is historical data. you have to think about what historical data is. It's what Ritu was talking about, the contracts that were previously awarded, things like that. Why do I want to know that? Because those contracts that are going for recompete, that they either weren't happy with the incumbent, it's not going to be awarded to the incumbent. It was an 8A contract, and once a contract is in a small business set aside, it has to remain there. So maybe somebody graduated out of the 8A and no longer is qualified, but you're a new 8A and you could actually qualify. What you can do is find those actual contracts there, and you can look up who got the contract, how much it was for, how long it was for, each purchasing order, everything like that has to be on FPDS. It hasn't been fully migrated into beta.sam.gov yet, but beta.sam.gov now covers everything else. Sam.gov obviously is still alive and running, and that's where you're gonna update your small business profile. But FBO has fully migrated to beta.sam.gov. Everything on the right hand side has to deal with CPARs and everything along those lines. That's for the contracting officials, so you won't have to worry about that. But if you're looking for any historical data or new data, which would be the FBO opportunities and things like that, beta.sam.gov. They're doing a lot better about keeping it updated, and it's a lot easier to use than it was previously. There's more information on there. With everything that's new, there's always kinks in it. So in the next year, probably year and a half, they're going to be, ramping it up. But it's actually been worked very well recently from what I've been using. But sam.gov is where you register your business to do business with the federal government. It's not through BetaSam. It's just sam.gov. I know it's a little confusing, but all of it will be migrated eventually to beta.sam.gov, and it'll all be called sam.gov. The only reason it's called beta right now is because it's in the beta form. So that's where you get, so right here, you see the screenshot right here. This is where you're going to find contract opportunities. There's a drop down there. You can actually find awarded opportunities, contract opportunities, things like that. And you're going to want to do that. When you're in there, there's actually a filtering option for sources sought, set asides for different certifications. There's a bunch of stuff there that really helps everyone narrow down their search on as far as contract opportunities. You can put in the NACS codes, you can put in multiple NACS codes, which agency you want to get contract opportunities with. You want to find out if they're awarding and things like that. That's all going to be on beta.sam.gov, and it's currently there right now. They haven't, like I said, they haven't migrated the small business profiles there yet. So DSBS is still active, FPDS is still active, and sam.gov is still a separate entity to beta.sam.gov as well.
Great. And you mentioned sources sought a couple of times, and we never really clearly defined that. Do you want to just tell everybody what the difference is between sources sought and the other few varieties of contracts that are out there?
Definitely. So actually it's my turn anyways to speak.
Okay.
So what Rita was talking about is that I was talking about market research that has to be done for traditional solicitations. And I've been talking about it for a few months now about the traditional approach and the non-traditional approach. The traditional approach for contracting officials to award a contract is to go through market research, meaning they go to Congress, they get they have to submit a acquisition forecast along with a full huge document on their budget for the year. Once they've done that, the acquisition forecast gets approved. That goes to acquisition.gov, which I'm going to be touching upon later on. Acquisition.gov has all of the procurement forecasts for the federal agencies that provide them on there. All of them are required to have them, but except for, I think, defense. But there's a lot of agencies that actually have them on acquisition.gov. So contracting landscape, ask Congress for money. Then you have the acquisition forecast sent to Congress that gets approved. Then after that, for each contract that is on there and recompetes, everything like that, each contract that is on their acquisition forecast and then they got the approval, they have to traditionally go into now a market research platform like Timeline, which is where they put requests for information, which is RFIs, sources sought notices. They put out pre-RFPs, things like that. That is all done for market research to see if there are not only small businesses that can meet those requirements, but who is going to be the ideal client for this requirement. So you'll see there are set-asides like Ritu was talking about. And if it's a small business set-aside that's woman-owned, set-aside, it's because they had the rule of two. They saw that at least 2 women-owned small businesses meet the requirements and can fulfill on that contract. So that's the only way that a contract can be set aside a certain certification, right? So they have to perform market research not only to award the contract, but they have to perform market research to even set aside the contract. Once they've already done all of that market research, then they push out the proposal, the solicitation. So this timeline could be 8 months, could be a year and a half. I've seen people follow solicitations for 3 years. You know, what we're trying to get at is that if you have your 8A, if you try to contract under simplified acquisition, micro purchase contracts, things like that, it cuts that timeline dramatically for the contracting official. They might tell you, oh, well, it's not going to be awarded until 2021, but I'm interested in procuring with you as an 8A firm. Why do I say that? 8A certification, you saw what the qualifications were to meet the 8A, but the 8A certification is the only certification that gives you the opportunity for a direct award sole source acquisition option. That means that a contract up to $4 million can be directly awarded to you as an 8A firm. You can literally go during sources sought. You can't talk to them when it's during solicitation, but anytime during that market research period, even when they push out that acquisition forecast, you can reach out to the point of contact that's on there because each solicitation on the forecast has a point of contact. You can reach out to them and say, hey, I noticed that you have this opportunity. It says between $3 and $5 million for the dollar amount. Is there a possibility for you getting, are you looking into awarding this under direct award, sole source, 8A direct award, sole source acquisition? You could actually talk to them. You could speak to them. There's no cone of silence. Once the RFP is pushed out, the proposal, the solicitation is pushed out, then there's that cone of silence going through. So it's really important to make sure that you know the contracting landscape before you're getting into working with the federal government, which is why it's essential that you wait to get your 8A if you qualify. So what we do through the SBA 7J program is we help you guys get government contract ready. So teaching you about the contracting landscape, teaching you about if you qualify, if you're HUD Zone certified, if you're 8A certified, EDWSB, and then if you're operating in a low income environment or a high unemployment environment, and if your CEO, your president is of low income, so anything less than $40,000, those or other qualifying terms in order to get the training through the SBA 7J program. So a lot of you are women-owned on here. If you get your economically disadvantaged women-owned small business, you can qualify. Right now during COVID, a lot of areas are high unemployment. So a lot of you have to make sure that you are in that areas of those designated areas in order to see if you qualify as well. So we do one-on-one consultations, primarily with me, but we're also doing it with the CRMSDC, which is the Capital Region Minority Supplier Development Council. And you could actually book that through the website. Right now, I think we're booked through November 15th, so I wouldn't even try. But they're all of the trainings that we do, and there's a lot of webinars that we've done during COVID, because of COVID, before COVID, and everything like that. And those are all on that website that's on the bottom. I don't think that you can see it, but it's www.smallbizassistance.com. If you qualify and you register, you can get a login, and then you just go through, and it's free of cost. Like I said earlier today, we work very cohesively with MBDA because there's certain things you have to remember. SBA 7J is just management and technical assistance. You really want to go back and get with, if you're at a certain threshold, if you're finally get contracts, everything like that, you're rolling, but you need help with proposal writing, you need help with access to capital, contract opportunities. Hey, I need to go after this contract and I really want somebody to help me follow up on it. That's where you go to MBDA. Once you're already government contract ready and you're ready to pursue on these opportunities, that's when I'll probably put you together with Kanasha or Ritu, which I've done for a lot of you already. So how to prepare. 5 big things, but obviously there's a lot of other things that you should be doing in order to prepare. There are 4 key, well, I put 5, but there's 5 key steps on preparing your business to be government contract ready and to be ready to work with the federal government, market yourself to the federal government. So you have to know your customer. You have to familiarize yourself with the particular agency that you're targeting, meaning that you have to look at their acquisition forecast, look at their website, see the wording that they're using. And just use it towards what your elevator pitch includes, everything like that. Obviously, number 2 is used to be in front of people, but now it's been it's via email. And I actually have an example of an elevator pitch later on today. So you have to make sure that you're precise, that it's not too long, because nobody wants to read an essay. So you have to think simple. Think as a person. You as a person, what email would you want to hear? Would you want to be dry and specific? No. You want to be a little bit warm, be more specific than vague. I can't just say, hey, I'm a woman-owned small business, use me. So we're going to touch upon that, and I'm going to show you the different elevator pitch or later on. But present a business card. So the new business card now is your email signature, period. Your email signature is now adopted into being the business card. We're not handing anybody anything. We're not seeing these people in person. So you have to make sure that your email signature includes all the information that your business card would initially. So I'm going to show you guys that later on today as well. You have to create a capability statement. Your capability statement is your business resume. Without a capability statement, you're dead in the water. I'm going to tell you right now. Capability statement, there's actually a template on here. So when you guys get the this PowerPoint, you're going to get the template as well. When you're creating a capability statement, you have to make sure that you hit certain notes and you make it very specific. Keep it simple, guys, okay? So if you make sure that your website is also up to date, which I know that Kanasha is going to be talking about later today, she's just going to talk about a couple points on what you should have on your website and how it should actually mirror almost your capability statement as well. So when you're developing your capability statement, the same about us portion should be adopted into your website. You want to keep all of your branding consistent. So this is, well, I'm going to actually zoom in because I can't really read. Thank you. So this is an example of an elevator pitch. So it says, "Dear Mr. and Miss," whatever, right? I hope this email finds you well. That warm, remember, beginning, not just straight to the point. You have to make sure that you're talking to a person, right? So I would like to introduce my company, ABC Consulting or whatever, with offices located in Miami, DC and Washington, DC. That shows that you're not as small as they might think you are. You're already telling them that you have multiple locations. If you don't have multiple locations, you can get teaming agreements with people located in DC, located in high contracted areas like Maryland, Virginia, DC, and everything like that, and then build out an agreement that when you're in that location, you'll be utilizing their space as well. You can build out those teaming agreements with anybody. So I actually need it bigger. Thank you. So you go back in and then located in Miami and DC. We specialize in human capital and strategic staffing services with past performance with Department of Homeland Security, NRC, which is the Nuclear Regulatory Commission, USAID, U.S. Agency for International Development, and several other agencies. What did they do here? What they did here is show that this is exactly what I do. This is what the past performance that I have, and it's very specific. They didn't come out and say, hey, I'm women-owned, use me. You know what I mean? They led with the core competencies of what the company is doing. This is what my company does. These are my previous clients, and it's all within a sentence and a half. You know, it's a pretty long sentence, but still very specific. Go right there. This is the elevator pitch. Okay. So then you go back into it. As an 8A EDWSB, so now you're telling him I have the certifications as well that you need. I'm not telling you just leading with it. Don't lead with your certification. Lead with the solution that you're providing to these agencies. So as an 8A EDWSB, we're a low risk small business with experience and team ready to perform for said agency, right? And then you say the products and services like software or construction services, facilities management, things like that. And requested or sources sought. Oh, so if you are saying that this is a sources sought notice, if this is specifically for a sources sought notice, you should go in and let them know that you either have the opportunity for 8A direct award, if you have a simplified acquisition, if you're looking to see if they're going to award this through simplified acquisition, micro purchase, that's where you would insert that sentence, okay? In addition, we've received excellent reviews for the services we've delivered to our government and corporate clients. If you have government clients, then you actually are on FPDS. They can look you up on CPARs and see your ratings with your past performance. So if you have the past performance, you say it on there. You tell them, I have excellent CPARs. I have this. That's why that sentence is there. Please find attached a brief capability statement highlighting the key services that we provide with the agency, with Department of Homeland Security's mission. What you're saying is we're providing you with a solution to what your agency needs. That's that sentence right there. You're saying, hey, here's a capability statement. I've looked through what your agency needs. I've looked through your mission, and I've taken that into account and put it onto my capability statement. Your capability statement is going to be fluid, meaning that it's going to change. You're going to have one core one, and then it's going to change for each opportunity. Not every single one, but especially for those with the core competencies you're pursuing. I welcome the opportunity to speak with you and discuss how we could provide our services to you within a budget and on time. So then right after that, you're going to tell them, please let me know your availability for this week to speak, the next week to speak, or if you have an opportunity that you're going off of and you're asking them for more information off of that sources sought, requested, and everything like that, then that's where you include a screenshot of what you saw in an acquisition forecast, the link to the sources sought that you found on beta.sam. You know, that's where you're going to put, I'd like to discuss this specifically, right at the end. If you don't give them something specific to talk about, then it's going to be very difficult for them to gear the conversation in what way, shape, or form. You can tell them, hey, I'm all of these things. Here's my capability statement. Use me how you want. But you have to make sure that you're keeping it simple. Keep it simple for them. Hey, I saw this stuff. This is who I am. I'm introducing myself. But not only am I all of these things, but I know the specific opportunity that I can fulfill on for you. The specific opportunity that I can help you meet your goals with. So that's pretty much what your elevator pitch should be going off of. Make sure it could obviously be tweaked. Your past performance might not be there. If you have corporate past performance, make sure to highlight that as well. But this is a good structure to try to go off of to make that elevator pitch for your company. Remember, you don't want to write an essay. Very specific. Each little paragraph has maybe 2 sentences, and it's within the easiest way, which is really funny. The easiest way to make sure that the email is not long, if you have to scroll to continue to read the email when it's open, then it's too long. So what you want them to do is, it's insane, but yeah, what you want to do when you click on it to open it, send it to yourself. And if you have to scroll to keep reading, then it's too long. Shorten it. Okay, guys? So the next thing that we're going to be talking about is your email signature. This goes off of what you should be structuring your email signature to look like right now in this day and age. This is doubling as your business card, which means you have to have all the required information on there. The top one is an 8A firm that is, you could actually see it right there with all the logos on the bottom. IT Data Solutions, he's actually on our board for FSMSC, but he has his, and I kind of told him to do that anyways. He has his 8A certification, his GSA schedule contract number, shows that his DBE, HBE, and then he shows that his MBE with the national symbol. That means his minority business enterprise. That's the logo for the certifications. If you can do that, then that's amazing. If not, feel free to write them out, your certifications, in a line right underneath your title, or you could put in 8A / WSB / hub zone, or somewhere in there. Put dots in between, make it pretty, something that's specific, showing, hey, I just sent you an email. And sometimes, even if they just scroll and be like, who is this? When they go down to the bottom, they're going to see 8A, hub zone, women owned, SDVOSB, right there in front of them. So that's when, the same way that you want to catch people's attention with your business card, you now have to do this with your signature. I put in mine as well because it's important to make sure, if you can, insert links. Make sure you have links to your website. Make sure you have links to maybe an event that you're having that you want them to attend. So they know that you're doing things if you're in event management or something like that. But if you include links to somewhere and they say, oh my God, I don't even know this person's website. If you don't have them hyperlinked, well, you have to copy and paste it. Seems pretty simple, but keep it simple. Make sure that you're making it as easy as possible for these federal agencies to follow up with you. So if you could link it to your website, link your email address, even make sure that those hyperlinks are clickable. Okay, good.
Yeah. Natalie, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay. I just wanted to add, what you're doing in both of these, I guess, activities and upgrading your elevator pitch and your email signature with these logos is demonstrating that you have validity with all these certifications at the bottom. Not to say that you want trophies all across your signature, but just to re-emphasize that, when you have the SBA certified, when you have the Hispanic business, the National Minority Supplier, the MBDA logos there, it just adds validation to your existence as a business. And when you mention past performance in the elevator pitch, it really speaks to your capacity and your history, as well as your staying power as a business. So those are very important things that you need to do when you're communicating.
Correct. You want to make sure that you're not saturating them with too much information, but keeping it simple, keeping it specific. And if they see the certifications that are there, it just means that you're an active small business, that you're not just some random person emailing them to ask about an opportunity that you could probably fulfill on. It shows validity, as Ritu was talking about. It shows that your small business is low risk, not high risk, because unfortunately, small businesses are viewed as high risk always. So you have to keep that in mind. So I think the next slide has the different, yeah, perfect. So we were talking about DSBS and FPDS and beta.sam, and just for the sake of time, I don't want to harp too much on this because you guys will have this PowerPoint. DSBS is a good way. is Dynamic Small Business Search. So it's dsbs.sba.gov. That's a great way to find those teaming partners that you could team with, because that is where all small businesses that are registered to do business with the federal government are on there. All the information's on there, their certification information. This is how the federal agencies find small businesses primarily, other than events and different networking, things. So when you're going on to DSBS, you have to make sure that you already have an opportunity set forth. You have to make sure that you know what you're trying to look for as far as a teaming partner when you're looking at it for that reason. When you're just going on DSBS, you have to make sure that your profile is up to date as well, so that people can find you. So what your small business profile is a section on sam.gov, and make sure that that's updated. That links directly to dsbs.sba.gov. And that's how the federal agencies are going to be seeing you, and also potential teaming partners that are using DSBS to find you. FPDS, again, I talked about it earlier. It's historical data. That's where you're going to go to see all contracts awarded. They must be on there. It's a mandate. It's not a maybe. All contracts are on there almost in real time. I know that when I did work with the previous firm that I worked with, we would get awarded something and it would be there within a day or two that it was awarded. So all contract awards are on there. If you want to find contracts that are being awarded for specific NACS codes, specific agencies, you can look on there too. You can navigate it in different ways and make sure you're sorting for the newest opportunity available. I think you can go to the next one, because networking and matchmaking, that's all virtual now. So remember, when you're preparing a capability statement, I'm going to hand it off to Kanasha now, but you have to make sure what I was telling you before, make it specific. Create a new document for each agency. Remember, it's going to be fluid. Prime or teaming opportunity, okay? Find ways to tailor the capability statement to the agency's mission or the specific contract opportunity. Make sure that the verbiage on there, the wording, matches different agencies. Like if they're talking about cybersecurity and you are trying to talk to them about an opportunity in cybersecurity, make sure that the wording that they're talking about cybersecurity is on there, okay? And keep it short. Your capability statement should only be 2 sides. Right now, it should be 1 because everything is virtual. The only reason I ever say it's to 2 sides is that if you have a paper in your hand and you fold it in half, the back is now the front. And if there's nothing on the back, then it's now a blank document. So I usually tell people to go 2 sides, at least with their contact information and their logo. So with that, I'm going to hand it over to Kanasha, and she's going to go deep dive into your branding, not only your capability statement, but making sure that your social media and website.
Hi, everyone. So thank you, Natalie and Ritu, for definitely sharing a lot of great information. So I want to go into the part that everyone loves to do when they're on their phone, on their computer. Yet, as a business owner, you probably hate having to do it. It's the part. And so I'm going to make sure that we get that up and running for everyone so that they understand what it takes. So it's a little know about me. My name is Kanasha Paul. I'm a business consultant with the Miami MBDA Center, and I primarily help business owners understand the different angles and all the strategies that involves with marketing. And it is a big part of federal contracting. A lot of times people think that once they go into government contract space, they're not responsible for doing government, not responsible anymore for doing marketing, but that is not the case. We are still part of that process as well. All right, so so the next thing that we did was that discussing prepare a company capability statement. One of the most important pieces in marketing collateral when it comes to local government, local, state, or federal contracting is your capability statement. It is a one-page snapshot that outlines what you need to do for your business. It needs to include your company contact information, your company core competencies, past performances with corporate or government, and of course your small business and industry specific certifications. Now, many people, like, depending on where you are in your business journey, you might also know this as an executive summary, a one pager, but basically it goes into how a government, it basically just, it's like a resume, your resume for your business. You kind of don't leave that as going into government contract. Your capability statement is basically like your resume to the government, saying that these are my skill sets. This is what I'm capable of. This is what I've done in the past. So if you ever had to do a resume, you kind of understand that a capability statement basically mirrors the same intent and purpose. Now, what makes an effective capability statement is that it really requires that I'll go first in talking about more in the branding. Now, because if you know how the structure of how it requires for in resumes or in corporate, you understand very clearly on that doing a resume and doing a capability statement, just having the right content on there is not going to be just enough. You really want to make sure that it stands out and that it's really going to really reflect the best version of your business. So, of course, with that, I'm going to still go over some of like the key areas. You go in your capability statement, you're always going to remember to label your document as a capability statement. It's so that it won't be confused with other documents like maybe a pitch deck, a marketing thing, a marketing pager, a sponsorship deck that is very clearly outlined as such. And then we're going to see they're having like core competencies. We'll have bullet points that explain your company's core capabilities, differentiators, that bullet point that describes what sets your company apart in the industry. Then we'll have certifications and contracting vehicles listing out all the federal, state, and local certifications your company holds. This is really important to have because it'll showcase the important parts of your business, and also not only it's really a competitive advantage knowing that you have multiple certifications. It shows very highly into like your capability of working with other agencies, other sectors in government, and so it's really an impactful aspect into within your capability statement. I recommend when you are doing a capability statement, you lay out your prior certifications with the logos. It's very eye-catching versus listing them out. That's something that I recommend. And then if you can go to the next. So here is an example of a capability statement that I know Natalie, she shares frequently with some of her clients. So with this one, if you look at it very clearly, is that the capability statement lays out the person's name, who's the president and CEO, how to contact them. It has their logo. It all matches in line with their brand and within their brand. What I really like about this capability statement also is that it has color icons so that people can easily follow like the information, as well as list out their corporate snapshots, your certification and licensing, and past performance. And what also is very necessary about a capability statement is that it is supposed to have, you should use the front and back. Why is that important? Because a lot of times they're printing out this information and then they're flipping it over. They're printing out this information, they'll flip it over, put it on their desk. Right now, luckily, we're also, because a lot of us are working remote, it's even pulling it from PDF, you'll see the two sides so that you can get a really great snapshot of what's going on. Next. Here's another example of a really great capability statement as well. I'm so sorry. Another capability statement as well. And here we have in the front arrowhead. I really like this capability statement because not only does it show the past performance of not only does it show the past performance of like actually having the pictures, it has the logos, it lists all the next codes, and then it provides the certification that they're qualified. And one thing that I do recommend for a lot of businesses owners to have is to have that nice, like neat little tagline on the top that really clearly like describes what your business done. It's kind of like I said, similar to a resume that you have like your objective. It clearly lays out that Arrowhead Global delivers supply chain solutions through process-driven best practices, best practice supporting sourcing, inventory planning, and reliability-centered technical services. And feel free, if you have any questions, feel free to share that with me. Like, you can drop the questions in the comments. I don't know how we're pulling up all the questions. Oh, okay, now I see it. All right, and now it's working. Perfect. So if there is any questions, feel free to share about what our best practices for capability statements. Then I'll be able to provide that as well. All right, so important tips to have in your capability statements. Your NAICS codes. Ritu and Natalie went over clearly about why it's important to have your NAICS codes. Another thing that I would recommend is for a lot of companies who have several NAICS codes, right? So you might have a business that does a wide range of things. I would recommend to do a different capability statement for the groups of your groups of NAICS codes. So for example, if you know that you have a construction company, and then you might on a separate side, it might be weird, but you might have a printing services just in case. Like I've come across a lot of companies that have different divisions and go into different sectors. And so making sure you have a capability statement for each division of your company that is completely unique is key. And then laying out those relevant NAICS codes. I will say a great example of that is people who tend to have consulting divisions of their company. And so, for example, like if you just know that you're going into maybe consult on a project, you're doing project management services, having a separate capability statement in those areas is key. Also, laying out your mission statement. As we looked at the previous capability statements, those were those key decks that laid out, making that is an attention grabber. It's short. Taglines also work really well with this as well, but definitely recommend making sure that it's in a succinct thing. Core competencies. You need to highlight your strongest services. This is something that I would recommend you definitely work with a consultant on, because a lot of times we don't always have a great perception of what our strengths are in our business. And it's something that I really think that it just happens with nature of with anything. It's like we think that something is really going to be the key driver to a business, but you have to understand that every purchaser of your service might be purchasing that need for different reasons. And so we really want to be very strategic about how we lay out those core competencies and really framing that so that it really presents the biggest, your best foot forward, and presents a key framework and a key framing of and verbiage of what your business actually does, who is its intended buyer, and how you're really delivering on that. Now, certifications and contracting vehicles. Logos catch the eye. I've seen capability statements where it's a list of services, but logos catch the eye. Next up. So like we looked at here for these ABC, they have for this ABC, they have the company description, they have the core competencies, the core data. They also go over like the different case studies. The only thing with this one is depending on your audience. So these are just great examples, but please know that also working with a consultant can help you tailor your capability statement properly towards your industry. Some capability statements, having too many case studies, might make out your capability statement too wordy, because we understand that to explain fully what you do will require a lot more. A short description could not be able to suffice. and then for the and then some is so a lot of what I do in the work that I do is balancing out verbiage and branding and design so that it lays and flows, and so that people really feel like they're really getting, is painting a picture, is telling a story about what you do. So this is a great example of a company that would need that kind of capability statement that lays out case studies, but this is not this doesn't have to be the case for every industry. So really working with someone to figure out what makes sense for your industry. And if you and you can research these things. You can look into what your industry, what are your NAICS codes, and do a Google search and then figure out what's in the market. What is the common standard in your industry?
Yeah, this is a template. I just wanted to reiterate what Kanasha was talking about. This is a template that we usually send to small businesses. So what a case study is pretty much a real world example of what past performance you have. So if you say that you have your first case study would be with Northrop Grumman, and your primary NAICS code would be for the NAICS code that was given to that contract award, right? So you have to make sure that if you're going to include case studies, that you have the past performance to do so. The only reason that that's on there is because if you're trying to do two sides and you want to fill the entire thing and you don't have enough information, case studies are a great way to fill it in. Don't saturate it with different information that's not necessary. That's one section that you can include that's pretty necessary to begin with. Also, when you're looking at the capability statement, you have to think about, again, keeping it simple. You saw it said like 4 differentiators, 4 core competencies. The NAICS codes that Kanasha was telling you to look up, those NAICS codes have to be in your SAM profile. You have to make sure that those are actually identifying NAICS codes for your company, okay? And when you're doing that, you can have a ton of NAICS codes on your SAM. I know that Rita was talking about my mom. She has like 27 on her SAM because yeah, I mean, when you're in consulting, obviously you can consult for different things, and you have to make sure that when you're diversifying your company, and it's kind of off topic, but a lot of people are diversifying their companies right now because of COVID-19. I spoke to a travel agency, exactly, that obviously is not doing travel. They're not doing very well. So when you're diversifying, you have to make sure that you're not scared to. You are not going to be doing everything as a business owner. That's something that business owners have a lot, that anxiety that I don't have the specialty in software development. I'm just in IT, kind of thing. But a software developer, that you can hire someone if you get that contract. If it's not too out of the scope of what you provide, you can always hire in order to do so. So when you're doing that,
yeah. The only thing I would add on to that is that your profile can have all your NAICS codes. But when you're out going to recruit, I would recommend for people to kind of have like a portfolio capability statement, just so that way it can be easier for when you're talking to that specific agency, when you're talking to that specific government, the government sector, that they understand your capabilities towards the service that they're looking for. So sometimes it can get distracting to an agency if they see too many NAICS codes from the one, because I know the tendency we want to jam pack all our business on one page because we just think it's easier, and we don't want to sit there and have like 15 different documents to basically share who we are. But it really is important to really tailor. Unfortunately, you gotta. The only way I can describe it is the same way that when you're looking for a job, it's like that cover letter. We want the resume to qualify for everything, but the cover letter, it honestly helps you make those different distinctions. It helps.
And it'll probably take you 10 minutes to do. It really doesn't take that long, but it's a pain, right? You think about it and you're like, I don't want to do this, right? So you have to really think about exactly what Kanasha is talking about. And when we reiterate, like what we were talking about earlier, you're going to have different capability statements.
And so we did have a question. Do we work with businesses outside the state of yes, because my Miami MBDA and the SBA program, we aren't locked to just the state of Florida. We can help businesses all over, and so we can definitely assist business owners within any part. I think even like outside of the U.S., we have clients who are serviced in Puerto Rico and some of the other additional territories. So we do provide our assistance in that way. I don't know if we can go to the next. So I'm also now going to jump into, now that we kind of, I feel like we went really deep dive into the capability statement part. I want us to discuss also kind of like branding. So I know, this is not on the slide. I'm just going to
Yeah,
put,
it's not on the slide.
so yeah, so branding. Now, this is something that I'm going to stress that it is very clear, like how Natalie went over that your business card needs to match, like your email signature needs to match, like the I don't know how many times that I can stress this to a business owner, but please make sure that your capability statement and your website match. Now, I understand you may have, as your company, you decided that yellow and green were going to be your company colors, and you have decided that you are going to be in love with those colors, but you saw a capability template that was pink and purple, and you're like, "Ooh, it's pretty. I want to pick that as my capability statement." No, just keep it your company colors. It's like change your template colors, work with the graphic designer to make it match, and be very clear. Like, you have to, these are these finite details that really truly make a difference. And don't just, if your colors are yellow and green, don't just use any yellow and green. Do not decide that one day you're going to have mustard yellow and the next day you're going to have sunshine yellow. Like, figure out what are your RGB numbers for your brand, what are your web colors for your brand, and make sure that those numbers are what you're sticking with consistently across your company. So that means that's on your email, that's on your email signatures, that's in your business card, that's on your capability statement. When you have to think about it from the contractor, when they're coming across so many different capability statements, and then they're going to do their due diligence, go on a website or do a quick Google search, and then they see that your company comes up in a rainbow of colors, that there's not no uniformity, they you increase the distrust that you're not a serious business owner. Like, at the end of the day, branding helps legitimize your business. It helps give confidence to the purchasing agent, to the contracting officer, that the person I'm about to give this contract is a legitimate business. And legitimate businesses do not deviate from their brand. I always tell you, will never see Target ever use any different shade of red. Like, it's that same red all the time, every day. Never. If like it's like they have I even use it as a case study for my clients. I'm like, I pull out, like, it's like a 30-page, their brand guidelines, like 30 pages. They even dictate how their logo goes on a gift card. That is how, like, detail oriented they are about every facet of their business. And if the same, and these tactics work, because you know why it works? You shop at Target. So it's like,
and if you see someone with khakis and a red shirt, you're gonna think that they work at Target.
It works.
Branding works, man. Branding works.
It's working on you as a consumer. So you have to be able to duplicate these same tactics for your business, because they're going to work on someone else. So I would just double down, being very clear about the brand. If you don't have a brand guideline, we can definitely, I work with a really amazing team of graphic artists that can help you map out your brand guideline. If you want a refresher, want to redo your logo, these are all things that we can work to, because it really is important for me that once Natalie sits down with you and does all the technical parts and help you understand, like, how the administrative side of how to get into the system and how to look for contracts and how this, I want to make sure that no one says no to you. And the easiest way for someone to say no to you is have an inconsistent brand look.
Well, thanks for that, Kanasha. I'm so happy that we've only got a couple more minutes left. And one of the things that I noticed on this slide was missing was our 20 points of how to get started in the contracting world. So I just wanted to pull up one of my older slides here that Natalie just sent over to us. These are the 20 essential key steps to government contracting. Making sure you have your business registered and you've got your EIN. Making sure that you've got your DUNS number. There's a lot that needs to be done when you get your DUNS number. It's not that you just get a number and you smack it onto your capability statement. Your DUNS number actually helps you develop business credit. And that's something we can get into another day when you engage us at the MBDA Center. We actually are putting together a program here in Orlando on how to build business credit. The next thing is your NAICS codes, your North American Industry Classification System code. It is important that you know your top 3, top 5, top 7 codes of what your business is doing. Your PSC codes, FSC codes. What are these again, Natalie?
Those are for what's it called? Those are for products. So it's product something code. I don't know.
Okay.
It's not something.
Fair enough. Fair enough.
GST codes, yeah, those are for products.
And that's for your GSC. Okay. And then, as I mentioned at the beginning of this presentation, determining what your small business size is, and if it is following in the guidelines of the SBA's small business limitations, caps, and whatnot. And also for your small business preferences. Become familiar with your local small business programs. There are SBA offices all across the U.S. You need to engage with them as well as the MBDA centers so we can assist you as you go through this journey. You have to register in SAM, and when you do that, you will get a cage code. Another code, yes. I know it's not on here, but your cage number or your cage code is something that you need to get as well. You need to establish a system for keeping your passwords. I can't tell you, as time goes on, I used to have a routine, I used to have a system, and lo and behold, I now need to keep a log. But make sure you do that as well. Register to receive automatic bid notifications from sam.gov. I'll tell you right now, I'm helping a company that wants to get their PPE into the government, and it's so important to be on top of the notifications that come through SAM, because now they put that contract on hold because it's almost as though they've over-purchased already and they don't need to purchase in the coming 2 quarters. So there's always going to be updates there. And I just noticed that we skipped 11. I think 11 was the cage code after the SAM. So we'll have to stick that back in there. But there are 20 steps. Trust me, guys, there's 20 steps. Probably more than 20 steps, but we try to reduce.
And all the steps are needed.
Right. Register with your cities, counties, and where you're located. Make sure that you're registered on your county's small business portal. Get your certification, minority certification, women-owned certifications there. Obtain your 7J small business training. Well, woohoo, you kind of did that today. So you can check number 13 off the box. Read and reread contract opportunities. Can't stress that enough. At the MBDA Center here in Orlando, we do have experts who have dealt with FDOT contracts, federal purchasing contracts, local construction contracts from the Orange County. Make sure you talk to us and get one of our experts to review it. You never know what you might be getting yourself into. Spending $200 on a consultant could save you maybe $5,000 to $10,000 to $12,000 in the long run. So sometimes hindsight is 20/20, and you need to do that upfront expense to make sure you're picking your battles properly. Create a capability statement. Thank you so much, Kanasha and Natalie, for running us through what really needs to be in a capability statement when you're going for federal contracting and local and state contracting. Perfect your computer skills and email etiquette. I'm so glad that Natalie provided a elevator pitch that's email based, because again, we want to make sure that you're demonstrating capacity and validity. Those are 2 very important things. And the way you do that is by referencing past performance, putting up logos, making sure that if you get a certificate, you get the certifying body's logo so you can put that at your email signature. Participate Participate in government trade shows and pre-bid conferences. A lot of them are going virtual. You don't even have to get dressed up and go out. You could just sit at your computer and engage via your computer. So make sure that you're keeping up to date on those. Be realistic, allow time to sell to the government. I will tell you, this is an investment. It's not going to happen in 6 months, not going to happen in 9 months. It takes 18 months to up to 72 months to get a government contract. They go to bid, and you have to know that you can handle the contract. And in order to do that, you need to sometimes JV with people, have a mentor protege program, involve yourself in some sort of workshops so you can demonstrate capacity and scalability for government contracts. It does take time. Take no shortcuts and commit to continuous learning about government contracting. There is a plethora of information out there. It's so important that you do go and search for those. So on that note, I'm going to switch it back to our previous slides and leave you with where to go for government for our assistance. We have the SBA lenders in Florida, the SBA Disaster Assistance Customer Service Center. We have the Miami MBDA Center where Kanasha is, and myself at the Orlando MBDA Business Center, as well as the FSMS DC location as well, the Florida State Minority Supplier Development Council. We are both organizations that help develop minority businesses so they can demonstrate capacity and have validity when they go out for contracting. So this PowerPoint will be sent out to you if you've registered, and we look forward to being of assistance. I am going to extend this by another 5 minutes if there's any questions. So let's go to that.
If you want to put the, yeah.
There we go. Sorry, guys.
Questions? Anybody has any questions? Feel free to chat. I know there's a lot of information because it is a process. I think the only thing I would add is that do not think that the government contract process is like an easier route. There's no easy route in business. Like I think everyone's always trying to figure out what it is, but each route, whether you do private sector, whether you do government sector, whether you do business to consumer, they all have their challenges. They all come with like their pros. So they said, do you all provide consultation? If so, is there a fee? So there is an initial fee to be a consultant for the SBA program. However, that is a free. So I don't know if you're going into federal contracting, Natalie, I don't know if you want to tell them a little bit more information.
Yeah, if you qualify for SBA 7J, there's no fee, but I know that we're booked through November 15th currently. So if you do need a consultation now, I highly recommend you guys joining the MBDA. It's a small fee. Honestly, it's more than worth it. I've worked with the MBDA for like 12 years now, and honestly, it's more than worth it. I don't have a fee, but like I said, the consultations are all booked up. So there's nothing you can do there, but you could definitely go into the SBA 7J site. And if you qualify for the program, then you could actually do the trainings on there free of charge as well. So I highly recommend going to MBDA,
with the
talking to either of them. And then if you need further training, like hands-on modules and things, see if you qualify for 7J and go into that too.
Yeah, for the fee structure for MBDA, it's depending on your gross sales or your gross revenue. So the most businesses qualify for the $250 fee, and that's 6 months that's a 6-month membership. So it's not $250 each month; it's $250 for the 6 months. I came from private sector, so I always tell people that it is a ridiculous steal. Like when I calculate my numbers, I'd be like, so you guys are literally getting almost $400 an hour coaching for $250 for 6 months. Mm-hmm. So So it definitely, you are getting a lot for it, but because the goal isn't a revenue goal, it's just so that we can make sure you have some teeth, some skin in the game. And then but it's really us to kind of like really help you scale up. The goal of the program is to making sure that you are getting access to capital, you are getting contracts, you are getting certified, because if we know the economy is ran by small business, and the success of small business is we all rely on it, and so it really is a core focus point for us to make sure that small businesses are successful.
Yeah, and just to let you know, Faith, there are some fees associated with additional services from the MBDA. So there is an annual or 6-month membership, as Kanasha mentioned, where you can access our assistance to get certified as a minority or woman-owned business. You can get assistance in putting together a loan package or the financial parts of your business plan. So you can go out to a bank and get a loan to do your business. There's access to contracts. A lot of construction companies who are already up and running, doing drywalling, doing light fixtures, putting in carpet and flooring have come to us, and now we're getting them access to more contracts through the Orange County District School Board, the Hillsborough School Board, opportunities for them to do work outside of just maybe the residential and commercial projects that they have on their own. But we help get you ready to write that RFP. And sometimes, to be honest, it is a bit of a conflict of interest for us to be assisting you with an RFP. So that's why we have specialty consultants that you can pay on an hourly basis, and they discount their rates for the MBDA because they understand that minority businesses still don't have the capacity, financial capacity, to use their services. So we do have those specialty consultants who come in, and they will review your bid proposal and let you know where you're maybe legally or technically off. We also have a lawyer who's a specialist in construction contracts. He's a third generation general contractor himself, African American male, understands the struggles that minorities have gone through in launching their business. And he provides legal consultations at a discounted rate for our members. So those types of resources you wouldn't necessarily get access to. And sometimes you go based off of like what's in an ad or through a friend, but they're not a vetted source. And these people have been working with these centers for years now. So we know that they have the expertise to help you get leapfrog, in a sense, from one stage of your business to another. I'll give you another example of another business. He does a lot of construction for residential roofing. Hasn't formulated his business, just registered it on sunbiz.org, and never put his bylaws together, never put his articles of incorporation together, never thought the need of it until someone said to him, hey, do you want to be a subcontractor for me to do this project on a school? And then all of a sudden he needed to get his bylaws together, his certification. He needed to get, the specialty consultant to review the contract. So there's elements there that, at the click of a finger, we have those resources for businesses, and we're happy to help. But like Kanasha said, $250, $300 for an annual or semi-annual fee is just your commitment to also engaging with us and making sure that you're just as vested.
Yeah, there's people that charge $250 an hour.
Yeah.
I don't know. For the information you guys are providing to them. And again, like I said, I'm booked, but they do work with me. So we're constantly talking. So it's kind of a loophole.
Yeah, so we'll get access in a lot of ways. So make sure that we help. So I would definitely recommend that. I would also, because clarify, the branding services usually are an additional fee. I think and with anything, everyone knows branding can be a little bit more expensive, but the beauty is that we do work with specialty consultants who have discounted those rates for us as well. So just FYI, I know everyone's like, oh, free branding for $250. No, my graphic team would be like, but it's definitely, but it is still below market rate. And so you are going to get high quality design. So it's not, I think that is what I would say is the best of what Ritu said. Is like, it's vetted. It's not, you're not going to, I've had a client who went and paid $75 for a capability statement that that they had to completely redo because it literally looked thrown together, and it was just like, and I'm like, well, now you're gonna have to pay double that to fix it. And you could have, and then so now you added a tax on the cost of services by just not working with people that have already been vetted, already been trusted. So I definitely would it really, honestly, the membership pays for itself.
All right, guys. We have 30 seconds left, and on that, I'm just going to say thank you to everyone who has attended. I know we went 10 minutes over our allotted time of an hour and a half, but there was just so much information and so much content that we wanted to share. And as you can see, it is a bit of a Pandora's box, a black box of like not knowing how to navigate the waters of government contracting, but we are here for you. Natalie, thank you so much for your insights and your wisdom, years of learning with Natalie and her mom. And Kanasha, thank you so much for your insights and recommendations on how to properly brand your organization, your company, to do business with the government. It's very, very important that you represent yourself well. So on that note, from the FSMSDC, the SBA, the MBDA, and Women on the Rise, thank you everyone for attending today. If you did register, you will get a copy of the PowerPoint, and I'll make sure that the 20 key steps are in there as well. All right. I'm going to sign off now. Thanks, guys.
All right. Thanks, everyone.